What if I told you that your entire life is being controlled by forces you can't even see? Carl Jung believed that your unconscious mind holds the key to your destiny. Until you make it conscious, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate. Stay with me because in the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal Jung's most powerful insights that will completely shift how you see yourself and the world. On the self and individuation. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. On the unconscious and shadow, the shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. The shadow is the greatest teacher for how to come to the light. Man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. What you resist persists. Beneath the threshold of consciousness, everything is alive and active. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of its parents. Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol, morphine, or idealism. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. On dreams and symbols. Dreams are the guiding words of the soul. Until we have found our way back to the symbols, we are condemned to an existence of spiritual poverty. The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul. In each of us, there is another whom we do not know. The images of the unconscious place a great responsibility upon a man. Failure to understand them or a shirking of them is destructive to the soul. Dreams tell us many things we refuse to hear when awake. We must learn to regard people less in the light of what they do or omit to do, and more in the light of what they suffer. Our unconscious minds can keep secrets better than we can. Man's unconscious is the world's unconscious. Every human life contains a potential. If that potential is not fulfilled, then that life was wasted. On love and relationships, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. A particularly beautiful woman is a source of terror. As a rule, a beautiful woman is a terrible disappointment. Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Midlife is the time to let go of an over-dominant ego and to contemplate the deeper significance of human existence. Love is a power which produces love. The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment, and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent. A true understanding of another person presupposes the disintegration of one's own self. What we do not make conscious appears in our life as fate. On personal growth and wisdom, mistakes are, after all, the foundations of truth, and if a man does not know what a thing is, it is at least an increase in knowledge if he knows what it is not. The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into torturers. Everything depends on how we look at things, and not how they are in themselves. Resistance to the organized mass can be effected only by the man who is as well organized in his individuality as the mass itself. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. A man's hatred is always concentrated upon that which makes him conscious of his bad qualities. The world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you. A special ability means a heavy expenditure of energy in a particular direction, with a consequent drain from some other side of life. If one does not understand a person, one tends to regard him as a fool. Your perception will become clear only when you can look into your soul. On archetypes and collective unconscious. Archetypes are the living system of reactions and aptitudes that determine the individual's life in invisible ways. The collective unconscious consists of the sum of the instincts and their correlates, the archetypes. Every man carries within him the eternal image of woman, not the image of this or that particular woman, but a definite feminine image. Every true and deep love is a sacrifice. It is high time we realize that it is useless to study the world with the soul of a slave. Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. We should not pretend to understand the world only by the intellect. We apprehend it just as much by feeling. The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. The unconscious can be destructive or healing, but it will never let us rest. If the path before you is clear, you're probably on someone else's. On growth and transformation. What did you do as a child that made the hours pass like minutes? Herein lies the key to your earthly pursuits. One does not have to be a hero, but neither does one have to be a slave. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. People grow when they are loved well. If you want to help others heal, love them without an agenda. The soul demands your folly, not your wisdom. A creative mind plays with the objects it loves. It all depends on how we look at things, and not on how they are themselves. If you are a gifted person, it doesn't mean you gained something. It means you have something to give back. To ask the right question is already half the solution of a problem. Your perceptions are projections. What you see in others is a reflection of yourself. On the psyche and healing. Every wound carries within it the seed of growth. Depression is like a woman in black. If she turns up, don't shoo her away. Invite her in, offer her a seat, treat her like a guest, and listen to what she wants to say. The patient is not healed by a therapist, but by the awakening of his own inner healing forces. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. We cannot attain happiness by consciously searching for it. It comes as a byproduct of fulfilling one's purpose. The paradox is one of our most valuable spiritual possessions. You always become the thing you fight the most. The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. The greater the contrast, the greater the potential. Great energy only comes from a correspondingly great tension of opposites. On fear and courage. A man who fears suffering is already suffering from what he fears. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. Shame is a soul-eating emotion. Genuine fearlessness arises only when we confront our fears directly. Often, the hands will solve a mystery that the intellect has struggled with in vain. If you don't understand yourself, you don't understand anyone else. Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life. I'd rather be whole than good. He who is afraid of death is afraid of life. To accept oneself fully is the most radical act of all. On the modern world and society, the world hangs by a thin thread, and that thread is the psyche of man. Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. The gods have become diseases. Zeus no longer rules Olympus, but rather the solar plexus, and produces curious speculations. The rational attitude which permits us to declare objective values as valid at all is not the work of the individual, but the product of human history. Masses are always breeding grounds of psychic epidemics. The world exists not because of human consciousness, but human consciousness exists because of the world. To confront a person with his own shadow is to show him his own light. Nothing is possible without love, for love puts one in a mood to risk everything. The greatest danger to our future is to believe that the human psyche does not matter. Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology. He introduced key concepts like the collective unconscious, archetypes, and individuation. His work explored the deep connections between mythology, dreams, and the human psyche. Jung's theories continued to influence psychology, philosophy, and even modern self-help movements. His legacy remains a cornerstone in understanding the complexities of the human mind.